So I just watched the movie ParaNorman, and like most of Laika's movies, I found it to be okay throughout most of the movie, but then my whole perspective changed at the end, making it all an awesome movie. And as I was watching it, I took lots of notes on the mysteries and unanswered questions the movie presented. So today, I'm going to share some of my immediate thoughts and theories on the movie. Some of these theories take some massive leaps in logic, but it makes the experience so much more fun. Make sure that you too have seen this movie before you watch my video, because there are spoilers and you won't understand anything I'm saying if you haven't seen the movie. It would also be very, very handy if you have watched my Corpse Bride video and the movie The Corpse Bride. Alright, here we go. Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and after I watched The Corpse Bride a while back, I felt that the only way to complete my circuit of watching creepy animated movies was to watch ParaNorman. I have now watched all of the movies created by Laika, and I have no regrets in doing so. Great movies. And I'm not a creepy person or anything, but I do love a good mystery and solving it. I find it easiest to solve a mystery as you're watching the movie, so here's what I've got. First, I want to cover exactly what happens to people when they die in this movie, and how it may or may not tie into my Corpse Bride theory. You see, the mini theory I made at the end of my Corpse Bride video wasn't exactly correct, and it wasn't meant to be. But in the main part of the video, I talked about the Laika universe and what exactly happens when someone dies in their movies. In ParaNorman, we don't get any clues or hints about the land of the dead, but we do know that the people who die suddenly or with unfinished business stay as ghosts. This greatly differs from The Corpse Bride, in which I concluded that the unfinished business was strictly reserved for the land of the dead. In this movie, however, Norman's grandmother explains it. She says that those who die suddenly won't move on. And none of this really makes nor breaks my other theory, but notice how all of the ghosts are indeed people who died suddenly. A plane crash, a dog hit by a car, it goes on. So if you choose to stay, you remain as a ghost. But if you choose to move on with unfinished business, off you go to the land of the dead. This also makes sense of zombies. Remember in my other video when I talked about how souls could haunt from purgatory? Well, heaven and hell don't allow that in the same way. If someone is ripped from complete death and brought into a decayed body, it would disorient them and confuse them. Think only of Frankenstein. It all makes sense in a perfectly perfect way. So now that I've cleared up all of the death methods of Laika movies, it's time to get into something more pressing and interesting. The judges and Agatha Prendergast. Agatha was a young girl born in 1701 who had the unique ability to speak to ghosts. She and her mother lived together in a fine little town, but the people were afraid of Agatha. She is accused of witchcraft because she speaks to the dead, and then she is hanged by 7 judges. They are cursed to have painful deaths and to return as zombies once every year on the anniversary of Agatha's death. Someone related to Agatha soon has descendants who inherit the same powers that she had, and they use their powers to read a bedtime story to Agatha every year on the anniversary of her death, to keep her and the zombies at bay. A couple of centuries later, a man is born who inherits the powers. His siblings acknowledge his strangeness, and one of his siblings has a daughter named Sandra, who marries a man named Perry and has a son named Norman. Then the events of the movie take place. The man eventually dies after 50 years of holding off the curse, and Norman takes the duty. First and foremost, I want to discuss the relationship between the judges and Agatha. My following theory is a mind blower. However, it was a construction of my thoughts as I watched the movie, and I'm not sure if it really holds any weight. So, warning, things might start to dip into fan fiction territory, hopefully not too much though. So there's no doubt that Norman Babcock and Agatha Prendergast have striking similarities. Their eyes are the exact same color, their hair is the exact same color, their eyebrows are identical in both color and shape, they both have the ability to speak with spirits, they both have nearly identical ears, and they both share similar facial structures, down to their noses, jawlines, and pretty much everything else. Her last name is the same of Sandra's uncle, implying that they are indeed related. But how? Well, it's most likely through Agatha's mother. Her mother is shown to be rather significant, despite us knowing nothing about her. And strangely enough, no father is ever shown or even mentioned. This makes it more likely than not that Agatha had a father, but he died or left. However, in order to pass on these powers to Norman and his great-uncle, Agatha would need some sort of sibling. We don't know what happened to her mother after Agatha was killed by Judge Hopkins, but we can assume that she left town after she realized that there was nothing left for her there. And unless Agatha has a twin brother, it is impossible for Norman to be related to her in any way. Well, hold on a second. A twin sibling would explain why the last name in a fatherless family was continued, and it would need to be a boy if the surname continued down to Norman's mom. A twin because of the timing and the fact that this appears to be a fatherless family. A twin because of how sheerly identical Norman looks to Agatha, and a twin because the only way for this unique death-seeing ability to transfer on would be genetically, as we see with Norman's great-uncle. And hold on. Agatha says that she was consumed with vengeance on the 7 judges, and she never bothered to find her mother during all those years, implying that her mother did leave her home, but why? Unless someone else was at risk as well, like, I don't know, a sibling and the mother? Take a look at the visions Norman has. At first, everyone in the visions is chasing him, but during the courtroom vision, he is the one in Agatha's place until he moves aside. It's all symbolic of how he is Agatha's parallel. They are physically the same age as well. Agatha, the beginner of the cycle of zombies, and Norman, the one who ended it. The exact same parallelism that a twin would have. Norman is not the twin, obviously, but this movie does love symbolism. But why would Agatha and anybody related to her have this power in the first place? How is such an odd ability achieved? Witchcraft? Necromancy? Sorcery? Again, it's just one of those unexplained mysteries that's really never dawned upon. We know it's genetic, and we know that the only way for both Agatha and Norman to have it is via Agatha's parent or sibling, but what on earth would spark such a power to begin with? I wasn't going to bring up anything about Agatha's mom, but there's still more to my theory on her. Something sinister and malicious. Agatha's powers are clearly very potent, and clearly are to their fullest extent. She can curse an entire team of judges for God's sake. She can even turn herself into a vicious thunderstorm, create earthquakes, produce visions, and become godlike. As the generations descended, clearly the powers got less and less intense. At this point, we're down to Norman, who's restricted to only seeing visions and talking to the dead. Now, this power weakening would make sense because of all the other people who marry in and have children. It would all dilute the powers with normal people. But then it hit me like a nuclear bomb. In the scene with the 7 judges, Norman and Agatha, they ask her if she has anything to say for herself, and she tells them that she was only playing. Playing? What? What does she mean by playing? How is seeing the dead classified as playing with something? It's an ability, sure, but how is it seen as playing? It's not, because her ability is not natural. The ability to communicate with the dead is known as necromancy, and it is considered to be a dark form of witchcraft. Necromancy was highly frowned upon by prestigious churches and really any normal person. To claim that you are playing in order to speak with the dead would mean you have created this mystical ability yourself. When the judges are zombies, they later remorse about hanging her, but only because she was a young girl. But the necromancy was real. It makes complete sense when you consider her wording. But how on earth would a child have access to such tools? No, the true question is how on earth would 2 children have access to such tools? After Agatha is to be hanged, she lets out a blast of, That is not death communication, that is electrified sorcery. This is the curse. Agatha tells them that she'll make them all sorry, implying that she has some form of paranormality to her. She isn't just a child with the ability to speak with the dead. She is a child who has given necromantic sorcery to herself. And her brother would have acquired it too. Remember what we've been establishing this whole time. The only possible way for Norman and his family to be related, like they say, is for them to be descendants of Agatha or her family. But how would Agatha and her supposed sibling acquire such witchcraft? I am about to go off on a totally terrifying idea that might jump certain levels of logic, as if I haven't done that already, but remember, these are all my initial thoughts. Don't rage at my epic ideas. However, here's the true terror of it all. After Agatha's death, she was buried under a very specific tree, the tree which she and her mother bonded under. They read books with happy endings. The judges knew Agatha because of her alleged crimes against nature. They did not know her because of her lovely life with Mommy Dearest. So why would they jump to burying her under such a bizarrely significant tree? Unless it wasn't the judges who did it. The stories from Uncle Prendergast's book had been read to Agatha every year for the past 3 centuries. May I propose the question, who started this trend? Well, we know the judges were either dead or careless. We know that the many townspeople would be neglectful to the supposed rumor of a curse, so it of course would have been Agatha's mother. Just like usual, reading the books. Agatha's mother and brother begin the trend and successfully keep her at bay for hundreds of years through the brother's descendants. But why? Why keep her down like this? Well, to keep the town safe, of course. During Agatha's trial, Judge Hopkins tells her that she was reported by a couple of concerned witnesses for using necromancy. Who might these concerned witnesses be? Why, Agatha's very own family, of course. One day, a woman gets pregnant with twins with her husband, who later dies. To speak with him again, she consults witchcraft to find his spirit. Her twin children are born into this sorcery. Her children grow up with her and experience it firsthand along the way, making them all low-key necromancers. Living in a town filled with suspicious Puritans, they must eventually leave, but unnoticed. They pin their necromantic activities on Agatha by submitting anonymous requests to the judges. Blameless in the eyes of Agatha, the mother and son flee town. About to be hanged, Agatha curses the only people who she knew were mean. With the witchcraft, she didn't ask to learn, but ended up with anyways. She was always confused with her gifts, as her family didn't frequently explain what they all practiced. Her eventual death led to her family burying her under the family tree for all of eternity. Her brother consistently read her stories to keep her and her curse at bay, and they go off and live their lives, with the brother having descendants upon descendants who automatically have the witchcraft built into their systems. Some generations are skipped, but there will always be a natural necromancer alive to keep Agatha at bay. Who knows? One of the brother's descendants may have even been Victor Van Dort, but the only truly important descendant is Norman Babcock. And if you think all of this is far-fetched, I would partially agree with you. I mean, look at it! It's basically an amazing fanfiction with tons of strings of evidence that lead to a convoluted story, and I've only seen the movie once. Think of this video as the base for what may be a massive and phenomenal Tim Burton conspiracy in the near future. But as for Agatha's mother, well, we don't know her fate. Perhaps she remained in Massachusetts the entire time, and became known as a beautiful elder witch, who migrated west and created a pocket universe to make up for her lost children by destroying others. The timelines match up, the reasonings match up. The same people created both these movies, and the beldam is based off of a witch known as Goody Cole, who is from Massachusetts, the very same state in which ParaNorman takes place in. But that's where I finally draw the line at over-the-top ridiculousness. I honestly hope you were entertained or enthralled in my alleged theory and/or low-key fanfiction. See you soon. Until next time, I'm the Hold up! 7 graves in a circular pattern set in the middle of a forest. Is that a reference to the 7 circularized holiday trees of The Nightmare Before Christmas? Also, by one of this company's main directors. You know what? It probably is. Until next time, I'm the Theorizer.